Hi everyone, welcome to a short anatomy video. This time I'm going to be talking about the elbow and forearm rotation. So we'll start with the elbow. Elbow is a very simple hinge joint, kind of like the knee. And to show you the movement in the elbow, I'm going to turn sideways. I turn my palm to face forward, and then I just bend my elbow. This is called elbow flexion, as far as it will go. Try to keep my wrist straight. And then you're just noticing how much this gets sealed up in here. If I push my hand against my forearm, you can see that I can really flex my elbow to where there's really no space between my forearm and my bicep area. And everybody's different. So some people, when they bend their elbow, maybe this is as far as it goes. So that's going to affect certain positions. Like if you're trying to tell them to take their hand to their shoulder, they're going to need to bend their wrist in order to do that. Whereas, I'll bend my wrist a lot less than someone else. So that's elbow flexion. You want to always make sure you test both sides or observe both sides because they can be different. And then elbow extension is the other one. So for elbow extension, just hold on to the back of your arm just above the elbow and get that pretty much parallel to the floor. And then you just straighten your arm and notice if you get your wrist nice and straight. So if you bend the wrist, it's going to disguise what it looks like. So get your wrist nice and straight. And then just notice how straight does your elbow go. This is called elbow extension. And mine, I would say, is 0 degrees. It's pretty normal. I have seen students over the years that this is as straight as their elbow goes. So this is their version of straight, which might look bent. This is going to affect certain yoga poses. If this is straight, then yoga poses where your arms are straight are going to look different and probably feel different in your body if your elbow doesn't go to 0 degrees. And then, of course, there are people, I've seen some people over the years where they do what's called elbow hyperextension, which means their forearm is actually down at a lower angle and the elbow is popped up higher than the forearm. So that's another variation that could occur. So that's elbow flexion and elbow extension. And then the other couple of things that I'm going to talk about today are forearm pronation and supination. So in your arm, you have your humerus bone up here, this single bone at the top of the arm. And then in your forearm, you have 2 parallel bones. And this is the radius on the thumb side, and then the ulna is on the little finger side. So with my palm facing up, those 2 bones are parallel. And then if I rotate my palm down, it's called pronation, now the radius has crossed over the ulna. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I just have a chopstick here. And so the elbow is in close towards the side of the body. And I'll show you the side view first. You get your elbow in, about 90-degree bend here. And the wrist is nice and straight. So you're making a fist. So this is the neutral position with the vertical chopstick. So now I'm going to do forearm supination first, which is basically to turn the palm up. And what you're looking at is to see, what's the angle created here. And it's important that you don't move the elbow and that the elbow is resting against the ribs. So you're not moving the shoulder or the upper arm bone at all. And you want to make sure you're not doing anything with the wrist to compensate for what the forearm isn't doing. So that's forearm supination. And then pronation is basically going the other way as far as it'll go. And again, you really want to keep the wrist straight because you can cock the wrist and do it from the wrist and make it seem like you went further. So if I keep my wrist nice and straight, you'll see the angle that's created here. So I'll do both of those again. This is pronation. This is supination. And you can see for me, I can go past horizontal and supination. And then in pronation the other way, I can't get it all the way to horizontal. Not that everybody can. I certainly have seen people who can get it horizontal or even beyond that in either or both directions. I've seen some people in pronation that can really only get about 45 degrees. And again, why do we care? This is going to affect poses where you want your palm flat on the floor. And if I can only pronate this much in order to get this inner edge of my hand on the floor, I'm going to have to move my shoulder joint in order to get my palm flat. And that'll come up in poses like chaturanga, plank pose, downward facing dog pose. This in particular, this forearm pronation will be a limiting factor for some people and cause them to need to rotate in the shoulders in order to get the palm of the hand flat. And then one other just little tidbit about the elbows is what's called the carrying angle of the elbows. So if I get my upper arm bone, my humerus bones down, and I face my elbow crease forward and I just let my arms hang, you see that my humerus bone is vertical, but then there's my forearm bones angle out to the sides. And this is called the carrying angle of the elbows. Everybody's different. Some people have more of a carrying angle, some people have less. And this is really designed so you can walk and swing your arms and not run into your hips. You can see my arms are perfectly designed not to run into my hips because of my carrying angle. So just a few interesting things to note and observe in yourself about your elbows. So just to recap, flexion is how far it bends, different for everybody. Extension, how straight does it go? Maybe your straight looks bent, but that's straight for you. Or maybe it goes beyond level. And then we had the neutral starting position, and then you got supination, turning it out with the palm up, or pronation, turning it with the palm more down. All right, hope you found that interesting.